Sure. Look, I think well-being of organisations is a gradient. So well-being has never been optimal. If it was, a lot of the services we have in community and government wouldn't be needed. So, well-being is always being challenged. It's challenged by work, it's challenged by life, it's challenged by health, it's challenged by events. And I think what's happened for us over the last year is that the workforce has fundamentally changed, and people have started to have a very significant rethink of where work fits into their life and the need for purpose. And so what that does is it changes the overall level of wellness, if you want to use that term, of an organisation. And so I think, some of the challenges for organisations right now, firstly, we need to understand that disruption is here to stay. And in order to work through that, we need to have leaders that have the right level of confidence and the right level of capability to lead through change. And they may be different leaders, or they may be the same leaders learning new skills to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, the right leadership for now is what's going to help organisations get through not only the current environment we're in, but every other challenge that will come to us ahead. And those organisations that put people first are those that are going to thrive. Yeah, look, there's a lot of things we do in workplaces that are quite detrimental to health. So when we talk about wellness, it's not just physical wellness, it's social wellness, it's financial wellness, it's physical wellness, it's psychological wellness. And all of those things have a knock-on effect to the next one. So one of the classic ones that you see in organisations is around sleep. And I guess just to give a little bit of a context, someone who's been awake for 17 hours has the equivalent performance impairment of someone with a blood alcohol content reading of 0.5. So I think if you said to most organisations, would you be happy to have all of your employees come into work with a blood alcohol content reading of 0.5, I think most people would say no. And yet we don't seem to think about sleep and the impairment piece. So what happens is people come into work and they'll say things like, oh, I didn't sleep so well last night. And it might be that they've been up late working on a tender, or they've got a young child, or they're unwell. But they'll say, but it's great, I'm here. I only slept for 2 hours last night. And we let that go. Really the impact of that on the organisation and the individual is significant. So what we should be saying is, Greg, I'm really sorry to hear that you haven't slept enough last night for your health. I think the best thing would be for you to go home, take some time out, and come back to work when you're fully rested. Because the impact on decision making, the impact on performance, the risk of injury, the impact on communication is so high. But I'm not sure about anyone else in this session, but I have never heard that kind of response when people say, I haven't had enough sleep. And they're the kinds of things we need to think about. If we're serious about well-being, then it's got to start with some of the fundamentals, and sleep is core. Yeah, look, I think that's right. And I think it is about real leadership, and it's about leadership for now. So I think what we need to see much more of is a greater level of authenticity, a greater level of empathy, an understanding of the need to connect with people where they are. And people are in a whole range of different places. People have talked about, over the last year, we haven't just had a pandemic. We've had a huge number of people who have lost jobs, had hours reduced, had partners who had hours reduced, people who've experienced grief and loss. They haven't been able to celebrate. They've been isolated. And so, we've got natural disasters happening, last year, this year, probably again next year. If we don't understand the impact and implications of that for people and connect with them where they are right now, then that's a real challenge for us. And I think, everybody loves a good 4-letter word, and there's two for me around work. The first is risk, and the second is busy. We get, you know, you hear a lot about how busy workplaces are, and I think what we need to do is stop being busy and start just thinking about people, thinking about individuals, listening a lot more than we're talking, you know, giving that really honest communication without ambiguity. We need leaders with a much greater level of humility, and I think above all we need a lot more flexibility and adaptability. Look, regrettably it is changing, but it's changing far too slowly. And I think we need to normalize support, and we need to change the language. You know, if you say to an individual, I think you're a really valued part of our team and I'd love to provide you with some coaching, then that's a great thing. People say, you know, I feel valued and I'm getting the opportunity to be more more of whatever it is I'm great at now. But once we start to use support, assistance, counselling, those words don't help. So I think one of the things that we can all do around stigma is think carefully about the language we use. Don't talk about crisis and problem. Talk about how can we help people to be better than they already are. And you know, the simplicity of language. Over the last year, I don't know how many times I've heard it or seen it on signs, and we keep talking about social distancing. We actually got to stop using the language social distancing and talk about physical distancing, because what we need is physical distancing, but we need a whole lot more social connections. So, you know, I think we need to think really carefully about the language we use, because some of those things feed stigma. But, you know, let's talk about how we can help people be better than they already are.